Hi. Greetings from Wisdom Lord Raphael. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and hit the notification icon and don't miss any contents. This is the light novel of that time I got reincarnated as a slime. If you haven't watched previous video, I will leave the link on the description box, or you can click here. Let's start. This is Tensura Light Novel Volume 16. Tensura Light Novel. Volume 16. The End of the Game. Chapter 3. Toward Rebuilding. Banquet Meeting. Dinner was sumptuous. It was a full-course meal of Italian cuisine. We started with a soup of beets, rather, a vegetable similar to beets followed by gizzard confit. After zeppelines, we were served couscous with various vegetables and a lightly roasted medium fatty spearhead armored fish. Everything was absolutely divine, but it didn't stop there. Savory panna cotta with prawn, battleship fish involtini, and spaghetti with fortress crabs were added to the superb menu. As I took a break with a mushroom risotto, the seafood soup arrived. The soup, from which the extracts of all the seafood of the day had been extracted, was a wonderful dish that changed flavor with each sip. The soup was made by simmering various soups for more than half a day and mixing them together. It was no exaggeration to say that this dish was made by the thoughtfulness of the chefs, and it was a hidden masterpiece that could be eaten only once a year. And finally, the main dish of the day. It was a veal deer fillet steak. I cut it gently with a knife and placed it in my mouth. The tender meat melted before I could even finish biting into it. Delicious. Seriously, it's so delicious. As soon as we finished eating, Benimaru and I gave each other a high five. There was no need to exchange words, and that was enough. Normally, we would have a lively conversation during the meal, but everyone was quiet today. I felt that this was a sign of satisfaction. When the white wine yogurt was served for dessert, everyone finally started to talk about their impressions. What is this deliciousness? As an imperial aristocrat myself, I was proud to have tasted countless gourmet foods, but this is truly something else. I understand. Even as a prisoner of war, I always looked forward to eating here, and I've never felt more blissful than I do today. Thank you, Your Majesty Rimuru. To be honest, if I can eat like this, I'd be happy to be emperor. I've also learned how to cook, but this is impossible for me. There's nothing wasted, and the food has been thoughtfully prepared with the eater in mind. The Imperials were raving about it. Dworgan's side was not to be outdone. Rimuru, it seems that your cooking has improved here. Shuna Dono, was it? I'd like to invite you to my country to teach us a few recipes. That's true. I prefer drinking to eating, but this is different. The portion's small enough that it makes you want to eat more. It's all very well thought out. No, I don't think it's calculated, but I agree that I wanted to eat more of each dish. Ha! It was so delicious, I almost left for the next world. What do you mean, Jane Dono? You're the one who's eating everything. What are you talking about, Henrietta? You're eating the same amount of food as I am. What? Even if you notice something like that, it's good manners not to point it out. Basically, it seems that people were satisfied as long as the drinks are good, so I wanted to make them happy with the food as well. Thanks to Shuna and the others, I was able to achieve that goal this time. Incidentally, Xian and Diablo were in normal operation even in such a situation. Diablo was serving us, pouring us drinks, and Xian was standing upright as a guard. But I know. Shuna told me secretly that Xian was always eating and drinking in the name of poison testing. This time, she even took another bite to eat, so I didn't have to worry that she might get hungry. We took a moment of relaxation after dinner. The location changed to the common room, and we all enjoyed chatting over a cup of coffee. While we were chatting about the food and other small talk, Gazel suddenly spoke to me. By the way, Rimuru, there's something that's been bothering me. Yes, what is it? It's something you did. You, what? Benimaru Dono and the other executives there, you're the one who made them evolve, right? Ah, yes. Ah, that's a sign towards being reprimanded. I wish you'd stop saying things out of the blue like that. I don't think I'll get hit, but at least give me some time to think of an excuse beforehand. I was prepared, but Gazel smiled and continued. Don't be so nervous. I'm not angry. I paled when Jane told me about it, but now I understand that it was necessary. Yes, I suppose it was. Phew. I was relieved that he didn't seem upset. But explaining it to the rest of the world will be tricky, won't it? What do you mean? What, you haven't thought of that? The Western nations, the Western Holy Church, Sarian, and the rest of the human world must have been paying attention to this war. Even if we declare the end of the war, we still need to explain the process. I was just going to fake it, but They wouldn't believe me even if I explained things seriously, but as long as I shut up and didn't say anything, nobody would know that my friends had evolved into awakened demon lords. I thought I could get away with it as long as the deception went well. Well, that should be fine for the West. Bloomond and others might have doubts, but the rest of the world is too peaceful. Some of them may be suspicious, but they won't be able to stand up to Tempest, who is becoming an ally. You won't be bullish, right? In that case, there's nothing wrong. However, that woman can't be fooled. She will definitely demand a formal explanation. What are you going to do? That woman? Ah, he meant her. Oh, you mean El-Tan? That's okay. I already told her. Ilmesia-sen was also worried about the war, and she and Miles-kun and I had talked about it. In the worst case, she said they were considering accepting refugees. The three of us, Miles and Ilmesia-sen and I, had a means of emergency communication as the conspiracy trio known as the Three Drunk Sages. It was a high-performance magic tool, compact and foldable. Put quite simply, it was a cell phone. Inspired by Clayman's skill, it used long-distance radio signals and geomagnetism for encrypted communication and was capable of making long-distance calls without being interrupted by a magic. However, because the materials used were all rare, the price per unit was incredibly high. Since they could not be distributed even to the executives, one could understand just how valuable these were. With this, I was able to communicate directly with Ilmesia-san. So, before the party started, I sent a message to her saying, "We won," along with a victory report. El-Tan's reply was, "Okay, I'm relieved. I'll listen to you properly next time, so I'll come over to play again, haha." So, there was nothing for Gazel to worry about. And yet, El-Tan? Gazel shouted at the top of his lungs. And now he was staring at me with a look of disbelief. Huh? Was there anything surprising in what I just said? Don't be stupid. How did you get so close to that emperor? Oh, that. Well, I'm pretty good at that kind of thing. No matter how difficult someone is, you can always start with a conversation. And the most important thing is to have a good understanding of what the other person wants to say. In the past, when I was working as a supervisor at a construction site, there were nearby residents who always made absurd complaints. However, by listening to them calmly, the problems were able to be solved surprisingly easily. Of course, there are also times when there is nothing one can do. In those cases, just listening is good enough. Always keep listening. By doing so, the other person will feel closer to you, convinced that you can understand them, and gradually accept you. That, or you can just bide your time and wait for the problem to be solved. In this case, there's no need to do anything in particular, just listen to the complaints and keep the conversation going. This makes the other person feel more intimate, and it's overall a similar process. In this way, what was most important in my outlook of life was the way I treated others and the way I communicated with them. I had felt the same way when meeting Ilmesia-san, and before I knew it, we had become friends. Could it have been the alcohol? I've forgotten about that kind of thing. Forgetting things that aren't beneficial to you is a good way to live. Of course, it's also very important to reflect on your mistakes so that you don't make them again. It's a difficult thing to do, and I'm still learning. Well, how I did it is a secret, but we're good friends now, anyway. I'm not stupid enough to tell him about my drunken mistakes at the bar. That's what I said, but it seems that Gazel was not convinced. Rimuru, the Emperor of Sarian, is a difficult person to meet, and waiting for an audience normally takes several months. Even if I apply from Dworgen, it takes half a year. That woman has a long lifespan, so a month is like a day in her eyes, and yet you're acting like it's easy to contact her. Yes, that's right, Your Majesty Rimuru. Sarian is also very important to our empire. I did not expect this level of a connection. Even Calgurio and the others joined in on the conversation. When I asked them about it in detail, they told me that the empire considered Sarian to be its greatest threat. It was speculated that they had a number of magical weapons that were yet to be seen and that they had intended to save attacking Sarian for last. Listening to Calgurio and Minutsan's explanation, Gazel nodded in agreement. Even in the Western nations, there were many nations that recognized Sarian's complexion. However, it was natural for them to react that way because Sarian was considered a military power that could swallow up the Western economic zone all on its own. And the ease with which I was able to have a direct conversation with a leader of such a great power without an appointment, even if I didn't know much about it, it really was a bit hard to believe. But that said, it was all true. Well, this. I guess I was lucky. It is only natural for Rimuru-sama. That's right. Rather, it is the other party who should be grateful for their luck. Diablo and Xian praised me from the sidelines, but I wish they would keep their mouths shut. Seeing Gazel sigh deeply made me think it even more so. However, Minutsan unexpectedly seemed to agree with Xian and the others. Well, if she saw through His Majesty Rimura's true value, then indeed the Emperor's reaction is understandable. Kalgurio nodded in agreement. That's right. That fearsome celestial empress would be able to pull off something like that without a second thought. Our empire has always thought that the country's magical warriors would not move out. If that had been the Emperor's intention, she would have targeted our home country, while Rimuru and the others were at a disadvantage. It was a close call. He was much more wary of Sarian than I thought he would be. I was quite relieved that we were getting along well because I hadn't expected Sarian to be such a dangerous country. El-Tan had invited me to come visit next time, so I would be sure to pay her a visit and learn more about things then. I'm sure this information was also kept secret, but how far did the Intelligence Bureau get? No. Unfortunately, I hadn't heard of this either. Well, it's still a long time ago for me, so perhaps I just forgot. Velgrind was happily denying Minute-san's statement. She seemed to be very vindictive, and I was pretty sure she remembered everything, even if it was a long time ago. Oh, is there something you want to say to me? No, it's nothing. Scary, it's like she read my mind. This kind of person is dangerous, so I would try not to offend them. Even so, I was shocked that they were so surprised by my connection with Ilmesia-san. I guess it was best to keep the fact that Meyer Miles-kun was also a comrade a secret between us. With everything from the three drunk sages going on, it would be better to be careful about letting things slip. I made a secret vow to do so, and the night continued on. That's all for today, hope you guys enjoy it. Please check my other videos. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and hit the notification icon. And don't miss any updates. Thank you for watching.